Welcome to Trinidad and Tobago Opposition's media briefing this Monday, the 7th of October, 2024. Presenting is the Honorable Kamla Persad Bissessar, SCMP, the Leader of Opposition. Thank you for joining us. We will begin our broadcast shortly. In the meanwhile, please share the live.
Everybody now, let's go. Come on, come on. Hey. Whoa, oh, whoa, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Whoa, oh, yeah, yeah. It's time to make a difference. It's time to turn that page. We got to do the right things if we want brighter days. Cause things ain't getting easy and the road ahead is tough. It's up to you and I to make the madness stop. Every day the things getting harder, and every day the things getting rough, and every day they hike the food prices and they implementing more tax. For the sake of our twin nation and the youth of the next generation, let's stand united, show we're not divided. Let's show them now and send them a message now.
Show them that we're the voice of hope.
Send them a message now.
Show them that our country ain't no joke.
Send them a message now.
Show them that we're the ones who care.
Send them a message now.
Oh, 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 yeah, yeah. From a distance, look at the picture. Tell me what you see. An abstract of destruction to destroy you and me. We got to do the right thing. We got to make that move. Cause if we don't act fast on this, we're the ones who lose.
Every day the things getting harder, and every day the things getting rough, and every day they hike the food prices and they implementing more tax. For the sake of our twin nation and the youth of the next generation.
Ready. Okay, good afternoon, members of the media, and of course, to all those who are tuned in on the various live streams on our social media platforms. Thank you all for joining us today at very short notice. Of course, you know we are in the Parliament. That debate is ongoing, but I thought it was very important, it was imperative to hold this conference today to expose the lies that Prime Minister Rowley made on his PNM political platform on Friday, October 4th, 2024, regarding certain factual statements I made earlier that day in the Parliament in my budget response. After a decade of lies, cries, denials, and mamagai, I want to make it very clear to Prime Minister Rowley that no one believes him. I will spend a little time today debunking his rantings and falsehoods, and I will do so every single time he comes up with his fabrications. He was exposed repeatedly in my response on Friday for his unprecedented incompetence, failure, lies, and mismanagement of our country to the tune of $500 billion in 9 years, with not a single worthwhile achievement to show for it, but debt, deficits, despair, destabilization, death, and destruction. Because everything I said on Friday was truthful, could be fact-checked, and proved easily. Because the Prime Minister could not respond with facts, he chose instead to lash out in desperation, meltdown, and lies. I remember former Prime Minister Manning, the late Prime Minister Manning, said, "Show me a liar, and I'll show you a thief." Today, I intend to show that Prime Minister Rowley lied repeatedly on Friday night, and I'm not going into the sewer or into the gutter. I'm going to be dealing with the facts that impact on the lives and the quality of life of the people of Trinidad and Tobago through the budgeting exercise. I will deal with some key errors the Prime Minister identified in this latest meltdown. The first has to do with this mystery $400 million allocation for the construction of buildings. I have here a copy of the extract from the draft estimates of expenditure 2025. So that's this document. And this is under the Office of the Prime Minister. It is at page 187. It is a sub-item 039, construction of buildings. That's all it says, $400 million. In his meltdown on Friday night, the Prime Minister exposed himself as lying about this $400 million. He said, construction of buildings in the draft estimates, development program, page 187, which I'm holding up, under the Office of the Prime Minister, this line item 039, construction of buildings, has an allocation of $400 million. That's it, nothing else. The buildings were not described. The buildings were not named. There is no other data as to what this $400 million is going to be utilized for. But in that same document, just a page prior, still under this head, subhead 13, Office of the Prime Minister, item F, public buildings. The various buildings are actually identified. You have public buildings, Whitehall restoration, restoration of President's residence, construction of Prime Minister's Tobago residence, Baptist Cathedral, and so on. They are actually identified in the document. The line items, the actual public building is identified. But then you come to the end of this now, and it just has blanket 039, construction of buildings, $400 million. So exactly which buildings are to be constructed? Prime Minister tells us, Friday he said this money was being claimed for UDCOT because UDCOT does work. And UDCOT falls under the Office of the Prime Minister. So this $400 million is to what? To pay UDCOT. You hear lie? Those are more and more lies on this matter. Today I regret to inform the country that this allocation has become even more suspicious since Prime Minister's claims on Friday night. As I said, I have the draft estimates of the development program for 2025 here. These estimates lay out and itemize the funding of government's development projects. That funding comes under two heads. One is known as a consolidated fund. The other is under the IDF, the Infrastructure Development Fund. I want to quote from an article, yesterday, Sunday Guardian, an article by Akash Samaru, and I quote, "The Prime Minister has, as part of his portfolio, Minister for UDCOT. UDCOT reports to the Prime Minister. So any allocation to UDCOT will come up in the budget as OPM, Office of the Prime Minister. You think any sane and sober opposition leader should come to Parliament and be asking questions and telling the country that the Prime Minister take $400 million. The Prime Minister said, I continue from the article, UDCOT had done a lot of work in recent times from the Red House, President's House, Queen's Hall, magnificent 7 buildings. He said for 6 years, UDCOT was not paid any money, and some of the money allocated to OPM was to pay them off. I continue from the article. He added, meaning the Prime Minister, you know, one of the things the Prime Minister's office is doing under UDCOT is building a new hospital block in the Port of Spain Hospital. The tower is under construction, 540 beds. It has to be paid for. You hear lie? Again, heap it upon the lies, and I'll show you why. Rowley says that the $400 million is for UDCOT projects. He says UDCOT has not been paid in 6 years, and that some of this $400 million was for the Port of Spain Hospital Central Block. I invite you and anyone so interested to go to the UDCOT website under the link to projects. There you will see all the projects that UDCOT oversees and those that have been completed. And I've given the website link here. We'll share copies of this with you. Projects/UDCOT website. Projects listing. Listen to the number of projects that UDCOT oversees. The San Fernando Teaching Hospital, the Point Fortin Hospital, the Couva Hospital, the Rima General Hospital, Invaders Bay Development, Napa, Port of Spain International Waterfront Center, Executive Jet Center, National Academy of Performing Arts South, SAPA, Government Plaza, the new breakfast shed office, the new breakfast shed, office of the Prime Minister's staff, King George V tennis courts, and I'm doing this deliberately because they're not because you are Minister for Unicode that all this money comes to the office of the Prime Minister, and I'll show you where it goes. All these projects I've listed them, there are more of them, they continue. And one, of course, is the central block in the Port of Spain General Hospital, which is where we are now, before I move on to other projects. So I will use a few of examples of these projects being undertaken by Unicode to show you that monies have already been allocated to pay for many of these projects under Unicode, but they've been paid under the heads of various ministries in the same draft estimates that I held up, and that payments have been made consistently for these projects over the years. And of course, I'll give you the link to get to that same draft estimates. Let's start with this central block at the Port of Spain General Hospital. This was specifically mentioned by the Prime Minister as to be paid for out of the vote for the 400 million allocated under the OPM. That was a specific project Prime Minister told us on Friday night that he was going to be using this $400 million for. He claims that 400 million will be used for the central block. Again, I say that is a lie. It is a blatant lie. On page 201 of the 2025 draft IDF estimates, subhead 28, item 003, redevelopment of the Port of Spain General Hospital, you will see an allocation of $75 million under 2025, under where? The Ministry of Health. So is the Ministry of Health going to be paying for that central block? And will the Office of the Prime Minister also be paying for work done on that central block? No, the answer has to be no. It has to be no. That would be what is known as double dipping, if we believe Mr. Rowley. Furthermore, you will see on the same page 201 of the estimates, the Ministry of Health allocated and spent $116.7 million in 2023. They spent an estimated $162.47 million in 2024 on this same project. How can you say that Unicode was not being paid for 6 years? We go back along the chain, go back, and you will see that the Ministry of Health has been paying, has been allocated, and has been paid consistently for works done by Unicode on that central block. So all of that, as I'm saying, is under the Ministry of Health. Unicode oversees this project. So how can Mr. Rowley say Unicode was not paid for the last 6 years? That is another lie. The allocations are in the government's own books. These are not made up by me or Central Bank. They are in the books that they give us every year and gave to us this year again, the draft estimates of expenditure on the development program in particular. The actual Port of Spain Central Block expenditure from 2016 to 2023, all paid, allocated for, and paid by the Ministry of Health, totals $324.3 million. How have you seen? Unicode has not been paid for 6 years. Has to be a lie. And if we are to add the $162.47 million allocated in 2024, that now takes us to about $486 million allocated and paid by whom? The Ministry of Health. For whom? To Unicode for what? The Port of Spain Redevelopment Central Block Project. And then this year, in the same estimates, another $75 million is allocated under the Ministry of Health. To do what? To pay for the same redevelopment of the Port of Spain General Hospital. I want to point out to you item 004 on the same page 201 of the estimates of development program expenditure. Another Unicode project. So I'm saying, okay, Prime Minister says Unicode is under me. Unicode is doing many projects. I named some for you and we'll share with you the website as I say. Let's just take another project and see what happens. One is the Ministry of Health Admin Building. We see that $31.99 million was allocated to be paid on it for 2024. Under where? Ministry of Health. Paid to whom? Unicode. So how was Unicode not paid in the last 6 years? Sandy Granny Hospital. On page 200, item 007, under Ministry of Health again, construction of the Sandy Granny Hospital. You see 7 million was allocated, spent in 2023. 27 million allocated in 2024. And this year, 25 fiscal, 6.6 million allocated. Again, another Unicode project. Where's the money coming from? To pay Unicode, it is coming from the Ministry of Health. Let's get another one. Arima and Point 14 hospitals. On that same page, you will see another hospital. Other hospital projects under Unicode. Item 004, construction of the Arima Hospital, 27.5 million paid in 23. And item 005, construction of the Point 14 Hospital, 13.8 million paid, allocated in 2023. All these projects being undertaken by Unicode, but they come under the particular line item of the specific ministry, in these cases for the hospitals, under the Health Ministry, not the Office of the Prime Minister. We go to page 232 of the IDF. We look at Ministry of Agriculture, subhead 77, project group B004, improvement and expansion works, Emperor Valley Zoo. 2023, 9.7 paid. 2024, 7 million allocated. 2025, 15 million allocated. Where? Under the Ministry of Agriculture, not under the Office of the Prime Minister. These are public works, public buildings. Another Unicode project being financed under the specific ministry and not from this one line item under the Office of the Prime Minister. I may bore you with it, but it is worth saying it because then they'll jump. They always jump, you know. They don't stay on the point and stay on the facts, they just jump. So it's another Unicode project. Prime Minister, I challenge you. Tell us which Unicode project that this 400 million is going to be used to pay for. Which one? Here's another one, EBC headquarters. Another project being overseen by Unicode. Page 183 IDF, construction of a new head office for EBC, $20 million allocated. The money is allocated under the head of EBC, again, not under the OPM. Let's get another one, Ministry of Social Development Head Office, another Unicode project. Go to page 235, DE, Development Estimates, IDF, project F001, construction of a head office for the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services. $35 million allocated under its line ministry, that is the Ministry of Social Development. Another Unicode project, not going to be paid from the mystery 400 million under the Office of the Prime Minister. So Unicode has financed projects under the Ministry of Sport and Community Development. You'll see on page 237 the following Unicode projects. Upgrade of the multipurpose stadium, which would include the Hasely Crawford Stadium. Allocated, spent 2023 from that ministry, Ministry of Sport, 74.6. 2024, allocated 25 million, and now in 25, fiscal, 25 million. Where? Under the Ministry of Sport, Unicode projects, not under the Office of the Prime Minister. Paid for by Ministry of Sport under the estimates allocated to Ministry of Sport. Upgrade of Mahaika Oval, 2023, 11.6 million. 2025, 2 million allocated. Construction of community swimming pools, again under the Ministry of Sport, 2023, 4.5 million, and 2025, 10.5 million. Redevelopment of Skinner Park, again under the Ministry of Sport, 2023, 53.3 million. 2024, 25 million. 25 million. And for this fiscal, 25, $18 million allocated. Diego Martin Sporting Complex, and the list goes on. All these projects are falling under the Ministry of Sport, not under the Office of the Prime Minister. We come to construction of community centers. These are also allocated under the specific ministry, not out of the Office of the Prime Minister. Under this ministry alone, sports, the Ministry of Sport and Community Development for years 23, 24, 25, $450 million has been allocated in projects being done by whom? Unicode, not out of the Office of the Prime Minister. So we can go on. Fire stations funded under national security, again, not under the ministry, not under the Office of the Prime Minister, not under the Ministry of Unicut, as he calls it. We see projects in tourism. We see projects in the Magnificent Seven. Now, the Prime Minister specifically mentioned the Magnificent Seven billions. Says these are Unicut projects. They haven't been paid for in 6 years. This 400 million is to help pay for that. Again, that is a lie. That is a blatant lie. In reality, the actual expenditure for the period 2015 to 2023 on the Magnificent Seven billions is $217.7 million. And we have the figures here in the estimates of expenditure, which we will share with you to show it did not come out of the office of the Prime Minister under the special new tagline of construction of buildings. Indeed, when you look at that very page where that construction of buildings, you will see items specifically mentioned under the heading public buildings. I think I mentioned already Whitehall or Stormyers Castle or Hayes Court and many others. Hayes Court is one of the Magnificent Seven. The monies have been there. Yes, under the OPM, but with a specific name line item, not in this catch-all of just a blanket 400 million. I'm moving along. I can go on for almost every Unicut project and show where funds were allocated under different ministries, and also show that payments have been consistently made every year to Unicut, not from the office of the Prime Minister, but out of the specific ministry. This 400 million is for elections and not construction of buildings, and definitely not for Unicut payments. I say again, the Prime Minister is lying. I call on the Prime Minister to account for this mysterious 400 million allocation. These are ghost buildings that have been allocated 400 taxpayers' dollars, million. Again, I say, I remember the late Mr. Manning famously saying, show me a liar, and I'll show you a thief. I'm showing you a liar here today. I come now to another area the Prime Minister spent some time on Friday about borrowings. I had, in my response on Friday in the Parliament, I had gone through the borrowings to show how much this government has borrowed in their 9 years. Again, my expose of government's lies on debt and borrowing. They have plunged our country into my doing that, I think it tripped off the Prime Minister to go into this meltdown. He went into a tirade, started to quote fabricated figures. Remember, this is a great fabricator of email gator, don't ever forget that. Fabricated numbers. The Prime Minister Rowley's figures on borrowing are different from the figures in the annual review of the economy, which is published by the Ministry of Finance. Okay? Every year, with our budget books, I think I'm going to have a little accident here. Can one of you come and take it, please? I think in the future we need a little side desk. This. Good, thank you. Yes, this book, Review of the Economy. Every year with the budget documents, we get one of these volumes, Review of the Economy. And in this Review of the Economy, we can go through from 2011. Each year you will get the previous year. So this year is 25, but the review is for last year, 2024, Review of the Economy. So here we go. The figures that the Prime Minister shouted out on Friday night at his meeting are in total conflict, or not only total, they're totally not what the government has put out officially through the Review of the Economy, not that. So here we go. 2011, the Prime Minister said, we borrowed $3 billion. The Review of the Economy book you'll have to look at is 2014, Appendix 24, page 88. The true figure we borrowed for that year was $1.6 billion. For 2012, the Prime Minister said we borrowed, meaning my government borrowed $15.7 billion. The correct figure, as shown again in the Review of the Economy 2014, is $4.6 billion. 2013, Prime Minister says $1.2 billion we borrowed. The correct figure is $2 billion. Again, Review of the Economy will give us those numbers. 2014, Prime Minister said we borrowed $5 billion. The Review of the Economy, $5.6 billion. We come to 2015. $6.2 billion, Prime Minister says, was borrowed by his government. The correct figure is $4.1 billion. He lied and claimed that my government borrowed $31.1 billion. The actual figure was $18 billion. So he's telling the country the partnership government borrowed 31.1 billion. The actual figure, as evidenced in their own document, the review of the economy, shows that it is 18 billion. Let's come to the time of this government now. And we're talking about fiscal years. When I use the year 2016, we'll be talking about 2015 to 16, his first year in office. He says that his government borrowed $11 billion. The number in the review of the economy is $13.6 billion. For 2017, he says his government borrowed $6.1 billion. The correct figure, as shown in the review of the economy, is $10.3 billion. 2018, Prime Minister tells us $1.9 billion was borrowed by his government. The correct figure, as shown in their own book, The Review of the Economy, is $8.3 billion. 2019, Prime Minister says $6.6 billion was borrowed by his government in this year. The correct figure, as shown in the Review of the Economy, is $8.4 billion. 2020, Prime Minister says $16.5 billion was borrowed by his government. The correct figure, as shown in the Review of the Economy, is $16.6 billion. 2021, Prime Minister says $8.2 billion was borrowed by his government. The correct figure, and this is a major difference, the correct figure is $13.8 billion borrowed by Rowley's government in 2021. 2022, Prime Minister says $2.2 billion was borrowed by his government. The correct figures are shown in the Review of the Economy 2024 book is $7.3 billion. For 2023, Prime Minister says his government borrowed $7.5 billion. The figure correctly put out by the Ministry of Finance in the Review of the Economy is $11 billion borrowed by this government, 2023. He refused to say he borrowed $16 billion in 2024 and that they plan to borrow $12.88 billion in fiscal 2025. Again, the draft estimates of revenue for the financial year this year, 2025, gives us these numbers of the borrowings in 2024 and the projected borrowings in 2025. The Prime Minister claims his government borrowed $60 billion, when the facts from the central bank and the government's own figures in the Review of the Economy show that by the end of 2025, they will have borrowed $119.88 billion, twice the amount that the Prime Minister is claiming. So where is the Prime Minister getting these figures? Either the Prime Minister is incompetent, either the Prime Minister is foolish, or maybe the Prime Minister is just losing his mind. His numbers have no evidence anyway, cannot be fact-checked in any document by any ministry, by the central bank, and of course their own Review of the Economy documents. The Prime Minister must explain why his government borrowed $119.88 billion, but has so very little to show for it. Where has the money gone? Because they have no achievements besides crime. That's the only industry that is growing. Again, I remember Mr. Manning, the late Mr. Manning, saying, show me a liar, and I'll show you a thief. I'm showing you a liar here today. The next issue I want to deal with, finally, is the $50 million election FET vote. I had said on Friday, and I repeat it, it has been the sudden appearance of $50 million FET vote for the office of the Prime Minister. I revealed that $50 million had been allocated for rum and fetting at the PM's residence under two headings. One was official entertainment, and the other one was hosting of conferences and so on. Two line items, a total of $50 billion allocated. Now, let us remember what happened last year and the year before. Parties and functions were allocated $890,000 combined. $890,000 in 2023-24. That's just the last fiscal year. But here in 2025, a whopping $50 million is allocated. This is an increase of $49.11 million for hostings and for official entertainment. It's there in black and white in the budget documents, $50 million. An article in the Express published October 6, 2024 states, and I quote, speaking at the PNM's post-budget public meeting at the Belmont Community Center on Friday night, the Prime Minister said he normally hosts functions on national holidays for the public. He said, I have made it a habit in the diplomatic center on national holidays, Eid, Diwali, Baptist Liberation Day, Christmas, we host a function, and it is paid for by the state and sometimes in Tobago. So Prime Minister is saying this money now is for these various national and religious functions. But I want to ask him, Honorable Prime Minister, how did you host these events last year, fiscal 24, when the allocation was 890,000? Why has it now gone to $50 million? What has changed from last year and the year before and the years before? Why this sudden whopping increase? This is not the first time. Again, caught in a lie. Because I do not believe or trust anything this lying Prime Minister says. We did the research, my staff did the research, and this is what they found. Auspicious events at the Office of the Prime Minister, Diplomatic Center breakdown. Spiritual Shouter Baptist Liberation Day celebrations were held. April 1st, 2016, no $50 million. March 28, 2017, no $50 million. March 28, 2022, this was a P&M event, it was held outdoor, so it should not have been paid for by the Office of the Prime Minister. March 29, 2023. March 23, 2024, again, that was a P&M event for hosting these matters. But no $50 million. Nothing near to $50 million. Christmas celebrations were held December 9, 2015, December 14, 2019, December 16, 2022, December 16, 2020. Again, no $50 million. African Emancipation Day celebrations were held July 22, 2018, July 29, 2019, July 29, 2022, and July 26, 2024. Again, no $50 million allocated. Eid celebrations held 10 July 2017 and 29 June 2019. Again, no $50 million. Diwali celebrations were held October 26, 2016, November 4, 2018, November 8, 2023. No $50 million for all these. So my question to the Prime Minister is this. My question is, you held about 16 functions on national and religious holidays over the past 9 years, and at no time did you need to increase the allocation to $50 million per year. So why now? Why do you now need $50 million for rum and fetting in an election year? And we know who is invited to these 50 million rum fets. The same government reps, the P&M pedophile bigwigs, pseudo-intellectuals and eat-a-food fake elites, and all the others who never saw these discrepancies. They didn't see these things. Great budget, everybody. Yeah, right, great. I saw somebody writing recently for a function held at President's house where they couldn't even get a bottle of water. But yet they spent thousands and thousands for flowers, I'm told, for that particular function. So who gets invited to these big bashes, this big fete? I hope it's not one of you who didn't get the water. I think eventually they did give him a bottle of water, a member of the media. So it might be one of you, but I cast no aspersions on the goodly gentlemen and ladies who are here today. Cannot even get a bottle of water, man. It's really strange. The newspapers report, on the other hand, down at the Arima Hospital, the patients are being served what? Cricks and sardines. Cricks and sardines at the Arima Hospital. $50 million for rum and fete at the PM's residence. But the North Central Regional Health Authority, his CEO, Davlin Thomas, he's saying nothing is wrong with giving sick people cricks and sardines at the hospital. I want to ask Mr. Thomas today and the Minister of Health to tell the country the total amount senior management at NCRHA spends on food from restaurants for themselves, giving the patients what? Cricks and sardines. You take that, that's good for you. I serve notice to Rowley that we will ask in Parliament for the costs of these functions. We will also do via FOIAs to determine how the allocations in the past years have been spent. Again, I remember Mr. Manning saying, show me a liar, and I will show you a thief. I will not close without mentioning another matter that was raised, and it has to do with allegations of a pedophile ring in the PNM. I think that really tripped off the Prime Minister and prompted his meltdown on Friday. I pointed out in my budget response that in the 2025 draft estimates of the development program, that 13 Office of the Prime Minister, page 20, that whilst OPM had been allocated this $50 million for official entertainment and hostings and fete and rum and so on, a measly $1 million was given for strengthening of the child care and child protection systems in Trinidad and Tobago. $1 million for that. Such an important issue. Measly $1 million allocated, whilst they get this $50 million for fetting and rum. Yesterday's Guardian article states, and I quote, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley is challenging the opposition leader to name the so-called pedophiles that she claims are in the high ranks of the PNM. I will leave Anil Roberts to do that. He does that job very well. And Anil can tell him, Anil Roberts can tell him who are the pedophiles in the PNM now. But I want to remind you and him that since 2022, I demanded that the police probe this pedophile ring since 2022. But you see, his puppet commissioners of police, whom he has been installing since 2018, when he began to interfere in the TTPS, have not pursued any investigation against his government. Since 2022, I called for that. I quote an Express article published May 20, 2022, headline, Kamla wants police to probe report of pedophile ring in the PNM. And I give the link here. I quote from the article. Opposition leader Kamla Bissessar has called on the police to investigate reports of a long-standing pedophile ring operating within the PNM. I continued the quote. She called on Prime Minister Dr. Rowley to call the names of his PNM colleagues involved in the pedophile ring, alleged by former chairman of the 1997 task force, Robert Sapka. On Monday, the article continues, Rowley called on Acting Commissioner McDonald Jacob to find and probe the Sapka report. So this is not new. This has been around since 2022. I have a video here. Can we get it up, please?
Point in time, it was a UNC government. Can you say whether or not any of those persons that were named were part of the UNC government?
I will categorically tell you no. None. You have to remember the UNC had been in office a little over a year. What we ran into was something that was already well established and endemic.
So are you saying that we could assume that they were active members of the PNM government or officials, active members of that party who were part of that title?
I neither confirm nor deny.
You're not going to confirm or deny, okay. And you know the
I neither
title of that
confirm nor
article
deny. They say that time is longer than twine.
Yeah.
Robert?
One of the key individuals has now shuffled off his mortal coil. He's gone. But one of the other key individuals still holds a very high position. The best clue, I can't speak to this. I cannot call names. But if you recall the story of the young boy who was buggered and who was drowned in a pool.
Akil Chambers.
I didn't say anything. It's these two.
No, Akil Chambers.
The autopsy report on that boy went the same way as our report, because the DNA of two of these individuals were found in his body, in his anus at the time. I will say no more.
Thank you. So I want to advise the Prime Minister to ask the heads of the police service about the status of this investigation instead of jumping and twitching nervously every time he hears the word pedophile. Today also in the newspaper, I saw the PNM Women's League teaming up with NTA to attack me for calling out accusations of pedophilia in the PNM. It seems that the NTA has now unified with the PNM to attack me and the UNC to support Rowley in defense of the PNM pedophile ring accusations. That is not surprising, to say the least. So I want to say to Mr. Rowley and to the PNM Women's League and the NTA, if they wish to take offense to my exposing this matter of a pedophile ring in the PNM, I quote the great Bob Marley, who the cap fit, let them wear it. Who the cap fit, let them wear it. I make no apologies. I raised this since 2022, and I will continue so to do. Before I go, let me say this about the late Jaden Lalchan. We all know schools are meant to be safe places. We expect that when we send our children to school, they'll be looked after and cared for. Instead, for Jaden, it was a place of torment and torture. Jaden can no longer speak out, but today we must commit to being his voice. Our country can no longer sit quietly and allow our nation's schools to be places where violence, bullying, and torture are normalized. I close. I want to thank you all for being here and all those who listened on the live stream. I say again, the Prime Minister cannot account for $450 million allocated under the OPM for 2025, and this is an election year. Again, quoting the late Mr. Manning, show me a liar and I'll show you a thief. I thank you, and I'll be willing to take your questions if you have any.
Mrs. Persad, Mr. Keisha Haynes, Guardian Media. Okay, the first question. You, as a former Prime Minister and someone who's overseen budgets, can you explain to the public how it should work? So if UDCOT is building, let's say, a building that will eventually be run by the Ministry of Sport, under your tenure, where would that money have come from? Would it have come from OPM UDCOT, or would it have always come from the Ministry of Sport? How is that supposed to work?
Yeah, well, I shared with you just a few of the many UDCOT projects being undertaken by UDCOT government projects. And there are more in this document which I'll share with you to show that it goes under the line ministry. Yes. It doesn't come out under the OPM. If it comes out under the OPM, the line item is specifically mentioned. So, for example, under that same page that I dealt with in the OPM, with the OPM for the 25 IDF funding, draft estimates of development program, you will see specific line items. I think I mentioned Myers, I mentioned Hayes Court under the rubric public buildings. This $400 million comes after a list of those public buildings, actually listed an amount allocated for each is there. And this comes at the end of that, just blanket construction of buildings. Well, which buildings I come back to? So health, as Prime Minister said, they haven't paid them for 6 years and they pay for the hospital. The evidence is clear. They have been paying for the hospital every year through the Ministry of Health. One example.
If it's a debt owed to UDCOT, as the Prime Minister is saying, how would you have listed it in those budget documents? Would it be debt servicing? Would it be better if it had said that? Would that have been?
No. The way the budget documents are made out is that you're given allocations for specific projects. So if I'm owing you, Kishan, I'll put your name. What am I owing you for? Maybe out of the Communications Ministry did some work for us. So under Ministry of Communications, Kishan Haynes, $5 allocated. Will you actually get it? That's another story. Because allocations are made and then sometimes the persons are not given. So it will come as a line item in the specific ministry. If it is to come out of the OPM, it is listed specifically. I want to repeat that. I cannot stop repeating. Prime Minister mentioned Red House Restoration. That was a project still under public buildings, under the OPM, but it was actually listed as a line item. Listed as a line item. President's House, the Prime Minister mentioned, again, another lie. Because in that same document, there is a phase 2 restoration of the President's, however, and a specific figure is given. So to say this $400 million is also a Red House restoration, no, it's not. That project finished. If you have to do, you have to put back again, you have to put the line item, Red House restoration, as it was before over the many years. President's House over the many years, again, it was under the OPM as a public building, but was specifically mentioned and allocations were made. And then when that work completed, President's House cut off, and now I'm seeing in 2025, for the first time after many years, President's House restoration phase 2, a specific line item. So this blanket brush all can't work. It cannot work like that.
Let me just jump on Kijan's
Sure.
question, Mrs. Persad. Bissessar Alicia Boucher from TV6 News. So from the experience that you have when you were in office as Prime Minister, what you're saying is that you have never seen that blanketed amount
Yes.
in any budget allocation.
That's
Is
right.
that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. What you would see, construction of buildings, $400 million, A, B, C, D, E. It will break it down because it is scope for The scope for corruption will be so tremendous because you're not accounting for what you're going to do. So if you tell me 2 million for this time is 1 million for the president's house, phase 2. Okay, we'll be following that. At the end of the year, you'll say, okay, we didn't give the full 1 million. We didn't give you the cut the full million. We gave him 5, whatever it is. But when you say 400 million for what? There is no way to check it. And it's an election year. Worst of all, it's an election year.
I like that you said there's no way to check it. So when Standing Finance Committee comes up, this is the opportunity when you get to ask the Prime Minister directly.
I look forward to doing so, Kishan.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Like,
I look forward. I
is
said
this
we'll
what
ask the questions in Parliament, of course. We'll do FIRs we need to, and we will ask him. But then, the House is a House, and we are not in charge of the House. So should he choose to reply in an invasive manner, he can do so. But we will use the FOIAs, as I'm telling you, and questions to MPs, Parliament.
By placing it like this, do you think it makes it harder for you to ask the line item in the Standing Finance? I know a lot of times the speaker or the chairman in this case will ask, what's the line item?
Yeah, I can find the line item.
If it's too vague, you may not be able to. So do you think this inhibits your ability
I
to
trust
question?
all my years in the Parliament has given me some amount of experience. If she stops it, she stops it, but I will not stop there. We will not stop there. But we will go brave. We will go brave. So what you're saying, I'm forewarning them, so they'll be forearmed.
Mrs. Bissessar, so let me just ask, although it is a blanket allocation, as you say, can that allocation be spent without giving an account for it? And I ask because you would have the public accounts after where you have to audit those accounts and know how that money is spent or where it was spent. So just your response to that.
Yes, my love, that is how it works in theory. But in the real world, we can't account for $3 billion. The Auditor General can't find $3 billion. You ask him if the Auditor General runs the accounts, public accounts, and so, yes, but after the fact. By then, elections come and go on. Might have been used for elections, not. The vary numbers, they move it they could transfer from some to the next. All of that can happen. So you don't wait. We have to flag it now. Now is the time to flag it. So they will have to offer some explanations at this time. If they don't, then it is for the public to see and believe what they wish to see.
Do you have anything specific that makes you think it's for elections or just the timing? Have you seen anything in your research?
But just the timing. There's another book, it's called the PSIP. I don't have it with me here, but we probably have it somewhere. Public Sector Investment Program. If you go into that book, I can't get it for me, I'll find it. Can I get, please, the PSIP? One of the books, the glossy books. Yeah, that was given to us. There's a part of it says public buildings, okay? A page dealing with public buildings. Nowhere does it mention any of these public buildings. What I did see, however, was something to do with the golf course down in Chagarawas. I saw that here. I'll tell you what page it is. So sometimes these books help where you have blanket statements in the budget documents, and these give you the details of what they intend to do for various things. So this one is for the Public Sector Investment Program. There's another one known as the Social Sector Investment Program, which deals with health and education and so on, the social factors. This one deals with this kind of development. So in this Public Sector Investment Program 2025, public buildings, here it is. Public buildings. I saw it just last night. Can I get back to you? But it's here
Sure, no
somewhere.
problem.
It's here. You can keep asking, I'll multitask.
In terms of did you hear his response on Saturday to the allocation of the entertainment budget? And he was saying that he's never really spent money on the entertainment, so he felt it was egregious that he was being accused of abusing the entertainment budget. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think he really just wanted to go where he wanted to go. I raised questions about why are you giving yourself for this entertainment $50 million when before in every year, previous years, the same functions you're having. He said he would do Diwali, he would do Eid, all the national and religious festivals. But why $50 million now? Tell us what it is you intend to do that will be $50 million worth, when up to last year it was only about $890,000. $890,000, how that morphed into $50 million. Okay? Still not looking fine in this. Yes, yeah.
Can I?
I'll send you, Keisha.
I got you. Can I touch on something that piqued
Sure.
my interest a little while ago? You said the he installed his commissioners of police since 2018. That would include Gary Griffith, of course. Is there and then you just accuse him of being unified with the PNM in terms of
That's
the
no.
Women's League?
No.
No.
No. But now he's saying I should report it to the police. As I gave you evidence, that doesn't matter, we called on the police since whichever year it was. And Prime Minister Rowley himself called upon then Commissioner to look at it. So all these commissioners could have looked at it. I think the NTA and the Women's League, they tell me I should go and report it to the police.
But specifically, is it that there's a souring of the relationship between you and Mr. Griffith? There was a look at unity a short while ago. So what's changed in the last couple?
In life, all things are possible. All things are possible. I cannot have a crystal ball to see into the future. All things are possible. All things are possible.
And finally, you raised the issue of the pedophilia ring. Mm-hmm. A joke was made about it in the Parliament on Friday from Keith Scotland, where the Couva North, he said, in Couva North, they speak Spanish. There are still allegations of at least one member of your party, the MP for Couva North, who's had allegations surrounding him and human trafficking for some time. Do you think it's a little hypocritical if you're raising that issue and you? It seems as though you haven't dealt with the issue in your party.
No.
Pertaining to that.
Has anyone reported anyone to the police? We did the report with the pedophile ring. We had the Robert Sabger's, had a whole commission, an inquiry into childcare and the things that were happening. All of that is there in the public domain. Not only did I call on the police to look into it, the Prime Minister himself also called on McDonald Jacob, I think is his name, to look into it. These allegations of human trafficking, no one will go outside here and say it. No one has gone outside. I will say this open, look, I'm doing it now. Because we have the evidence coming from several persons, the police should investigate. So you say I'm being hypocritical in calling for pedophile ring to be investigated and the naming of persons. No one has named anybody. It's just, hey, somebody. And that's that blanketing. I saw the Prime Minister does it all the time. Friday in Parliament, some of the senators came to listen. He said, look, 5 senators come to listen to her reply. 4 of them have things to answer for. He wouldn't say that outside there. He will report them to the police. This is 9 years. Not a policeman has knocked on my door to ask me anything or to give me any piece of paper in 9 years. So we seem to be living 9 years in the backwards. And I'm not going into the sewage and the garbage that he spoke about on Friday. So you can find this. You want to look for it? Oh, you gave me the wrong book. You see, I knew I saw it there last night.
They set you up, ma'am. They set you up.
We have a sure book, please.
But in terms of that, if by the laws of slander, libel, I'm sure you're well aware, we're aware, when somebody has passed, I think you can call the name. So if one of the people, as the Mr. Sabga said there, is
passed,
dead, yes, why not name it? Why not name it? Name at least one.
That was Mr. Sabga's take on it. He did not wish so to do. I don't know of what he's speaking. I heard of it. We got his report. We saw what he said. So that is not my decision. Mr. Sabga chose not to call the name. Maybe you could give him some legal advice that he wouldn't be sued for.
Well, the Prime Minister has also asked you to name names if you know. But I realize you're saying that you are waiting for the investigation. To take
Yes, sir.
course.
I am. Yes. So when he names the traffickers, fine. We'll take them to the police. But we do have that was a comprehensive commission done by Mr. Sabga on the whole child care system in Trinidad and Tobago. Did we get the next book, please?
Not yet.
I think you all hide away those books.
There's a lot.
There's
Any
a lot of
thoughts
books.
on the revelation on Friday of Patriotic Energies having supposedly presenting fraudulent documents to the the committee?
Evaluation committee.
Yeah.
The only thought is that I have no knowledge of what was presented, and I would say that I have not spoken to Patriotic since then. I've read the newspaper reports. I have no knowledge of the document or what was submitted, and therefore that is a question that will be squarely in the court of Patriotic and the committee.
Do you think that that too should be reported to the police because fake documents is fraud.
Fraud.
Yeah. Would you call on the opposition, the Prime Minister or the
Minister of Energy.
Minister
Minister of
of
Energy
Energy
made the
to-
allegations, but I trust he would do what is the right thing to do with that document instead of just waving it about the police. That's all he's doing now, waving it about.
But you and Mr. Roger would have also met recently. And,
Yes, we did.
Does that change your perception of them at all in any way?
No, I have not seen the document. This government makes all kinds of accusations. I was accused of trying to kill a journalist, can you believe? When they fabricated email gate, they make all kinds of wild accusations with no substance, no evidence to the support it. So we'll see how it plays out. Patriotic will give their side, the other side will give. No, it doesn't change anything really, in my mind, until we get more evidence, either way, either on this side or the other side.
Mrs. Bissessar, I'm seeing where Finance Minister Coleman Bird actually addressed that $50 million on his X account, formerly Twitter. And basically what he would have said is that that is to settle arrears owed to UDCOT for the past 6 years. And he was referring to that specific $50 million. He said the allegation...
Is it 50 million? Is we talking about 450?
No, this is specific to the 50 million. He
No,
said
but the 50 million has nothing to do with UDCOT.
this is the
The
finance
50, well, I'm
minister
asking you, the 50 million is for entertainment. What they owe in UDCOT for entertainment as well?
He's claiming that it
This
is
is crazy.
to settle
That
arrears
is
owed to
madness.
UDCOT for the last 6 years.
My comments, ma'am, sir, nonsense, foolishness. The 50, why doesn't he come and tell me only 400 million for UDCOT? 50 million for UDCOT for entertainment? I have never heard the likes of that. I have never in all my years. Wow. For entertainment and hosting conferences. So UDCOT was providing the rum and the roti and the bacon shack and the corn soup. We will do the FIRs on that, We'll ask those questions, exactly what it was spent on and to whom. That 50 million is not an issue of arrears. That is the allocation for fiscal 2025, this fiscal year. For official entertainment.
1 million a week.
Wow. I think the minister got a little confused.
And I don't know if you would just off the side of the topic, I don't know if you responded to this before, but let me ask you about it anyway.
Ask anyhow.
Where you said that revenue for 2025, based on your calculations, would actually be 54 billion and not 52, exceeding by an additional 2 billion. And he basically said, he responded to that saying that there is the Green Fund and the unemployment levy, and that is not those are not appropriated in the to the consolidated fund.
Okay.
So
It doesn't change the fact that his budget statement gives a different revenue figure, and that the book itself, the revenue book, shows a different number. I repeat exactly what I said on Friday with respect to that. That explanation is not satisfactory with respect to having two different kinds of revenue numbers. So which one to believe? You could tell us which one to believe in.
Keep backdated.
Nobody has a copy of this PSIP, man? I should have brought my own. But everybody got a copy on Friday in the Parliament, did we not? For this office, we had 3 copies for this office. Anyway, good old Senator Kijam.
That's all right. I think I'm almost good here.
I think you all should be happy now.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're all right for now. You should have more of these, Mrs. Persad.
Why?
I second that.
Thank you very much.
But I thank you for your time.
But I do apologize for the little delay. I was coming from a different place. And I never so much, so are we off?
Do you know that in 2016, 66 liters of diesel cost $100? Today, under the PNM, you get 20 liters of diesel for $100. The diesel you paid $100 for under the UNC now costs $327 under the PNM, which directly affects the cost of food, transport, and services. Guess who I'm voting for next time?